Hello and good afternoon, everybody. If you are here for the webinar on working with the EU SME Centre, then you're in the right place. So good afternoon from Beijing and good morning to those in the EU. This webinar will last an hour, and during which we'll be talking about the many ways that EN partners can work together with the EU SME Centre. This is a webinar, so it's going to be as interactive as we can make it. It will be lasting an hour, and so if you would like to ask any questions during this hour, please feel free to submit your questions in the questions panel in your application panel there. Just to give you a bit of a background on myself, my name is Chris Chung. I'm the director of the EU SME Centre. I've been working for over 10 years in China, mainly in the research and consultancy side for companies such as APCO, which is a strategic communications organization, Siemens. Actually, that experience was in Munich, so not in mainland China, but related to the Chinese mobile phone market, and then at the China-Britain Business Council, where I led on research and consultancy, on their research and consultancy department. I'm very much China and China business orientated, with a master's in Chinese and business from the University of Leeds and an MBA from the University of Warwick. I also have a bit of a legal background as well, having passed the legal practice course at the College of Law in London. And right now I'm the director of the EU SME Centre, which is based in Beijing, where I lead a team of 17 staff at the EU SME Centre. And today I'm together with Mrs. Anne-Laure Maddy, our communications manager.
Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon to those of you hearing us in Beijing and in China.
And together we'll be covering two key topics. The first one is really a background on what are the centre services, and I'll be taking everybody through that. And then Anne-Laure will be talking a bit more about the different ways that the centre can work together with Enterprise Europe Network partners. So if we can first go to the first part, EU SME Centre services, and I did warn you this was going to be as interactive as we could make it, and so the first poll is coming up, and we'd like you to take part in answering this question. In your experience, which are the main challenges your members, SMEs, face when doing business in China? So I'm just going to launch this poll. And if you could just click on your answers, and then we'll be sharing you the responses in a second. Okay, let me just close the poll. And I think that's enough time for that for now. And let me just share with you the results. So the results are pretty equally spread, with 33% each for those that don't know much about the market, bureaucracy, legal challenge issues, and finding the right partners. And that very much reflects also the experience of the EU SME Centre as well, in that many of the clients that approach the centre also have these many issues. And during the next part of the presentation, I'll be telling you about some of the services that the centre has, which will help EU SMEs overcome these challenges when entering the China market. So if I can just carry on with the presentation. Let me just first give you a bit of a background on the centre. Our main mission is to assist European SMEs to export to the China market, to establish, develop and maintain commercial activities in China. And we were set up in November 2010 to do this. We only have one centre, which is based in Beijing, and as I mentioned before, there are 18 staff in the centre. EU SMEs obviously make up a very large proportion of the companies in the EU at the moment. 99.7% I think is the latest statistic, and so there's 27 EU SMEs in China at the moment, but right now there are only 13% exporting beyond the EU internal market, and of those only 9% are exporting to China. And that means right now only 250,000 SMEs are exporting to China at the moment. And this number is obviously very low compared with the amount that could actually be exporting here. One of the key barriers that is preventing more SMEs coming to China is access to information, and this is one of the key services, or the key service, that the EU SME Centre provides to European SMEs. And so we provide these information services and support services through experts which are based within the centre, and we cover 4 key expert areas. And these are business development, standards and conformity, assessment advice, HR and training advice, and legal advice. And the different types of services we provide are really encapsulated in this slide here. There are 9 key services that we provide. The first 2, Ask the Expert and consultations, is really about providing advice to European SMEs that come across. We then have a variety of knowledge services, including our Knowledge Centre, which houses reports and guidelines that we write and provide to European SMEs on various issues of doing business in China, and I'll be going through those in a second. We then provide this information through training webinars, trainings and webinars which take place both in Europe and China, and right now most of our trainings are taking place in Europe. Another good way to reach out to European SMEs is through the webinars, and an example of this is the one that we're carrying out at the moment. We also have a range of e-learning and practical databases which are also housed on our website, which Anna will be telling you a bit about later. The last service that we have is the hot desking service, and so European SMEs can come to the EU SME Centre and use our desk space for a 1 or 2 week period so that they can attend events or pitch to clients in Beijing, should they so wish. One of the key challenges when providing these services has been the variety of EU SMEs that the SME Centre faces on a daily basis. And to overcome this challenge, we segmented the SMEs into 3 key segments. And so these are those SMEs that really don't know that much about the Chinese market at the moment, those considering the Chinese market, and those that are already doing business in China. And so the advice and the knowledge that we provide is really tailored to these different levels. So at the first level, we're very much pitched at raising awareness of the China market and the different opportunities there are in the Chinese market. The second level, we're giving more practical advice on the key issues to be aware of and signposting them to existing services. And then for the last one, where there's people who have actually quite a lot of experience doing business in China, then we're providing much more tailored technical advice through the expertise which is in-house at the centre and through our network of experts as well. We've also focused in terms of the sectors that we cover, and when we carried out the needs assessment at the beginning of the project, there were 10 sectors that we highlighted as potential focus areas for the EU SME Centre in terms of our research and our service delivery. And these 10 sectors are listed here, but even with 10 sectors, they cover a very wide range of products. And so in order to focus more, we have 4 focus sectors, which are the areas that we see as the areas of highest demand from EU SMEs and future potential growth. And these are the food and beverages sector, the green technology sector, healthcare, and ICT. We also cover a range of horizontal issues, and these are divided in 2 ways. Firstly, by the different levels of knowledge of the European SMEs that I mentioned before, and then we have the different expert areas which the SME Centre covers as well. So just to give you an example of our approach, if we look at the legal team and the topics they're concentrating on, for those that don't know much about the Chinese market, the legal team provides an overview of the legal environment in China, and they very much give raising awareness information in terms of make sure you carry out due diligence before you get to China and do business here. So at that level, it's extremely practical, and it's about making SMEs of the fundamental issues to be aware of before doing business in China. At a more technical level, for those that are considering the Chinese market, the legal team then goes into more detailed advice on the different entry modes or the different ways of setting up in China, the different contractual clauses to be aware of, the key laws to be aware of, particularly in terms of setting up HR and tax issues as well. And then finally, for those already doing business in the market, we become much more detailed and much more technical in terms of providing advice on labour, access to finance, payment conditions, and dispute settlement. And so many of the ways that we provide this advice is through the Ask the Expert service or through the information and report guidelines that we provide to EU SMEs online. I won't go through all the different expert areas. The slides will be provided after the presentation, and so you can have a look at in a bit more detail about the different focus areas that we have in terms of sectors and horizontal issues. We're now going on to the next poll before we get to Anne-Laur's section. And having looked very quickly, here's a very quick view of the services of the EU SME Centre. I'd just like to get your views now on which of the centre's services that you are most interested in. So again, we're going to launch a poll. Are you most interested in the reports and guidelines, the expertise within the centre in terms of business development, standards and conformity, HR and legal advice, the events, the hot desks, or electronic learning modules? And this is just so that we can have an idea of what your key interests are. Okay, and I think we're going to close the poll now. Let me just share this with everybody. And so the key area of expertise, the key area that everybody's interested in, or most people are interested in, is the expertise actually within the centre and within the network. And our Ask the Expert function and consultancy services are extremely popular. So 57% of people are most interested in that, and then there's the reports and guidelines, and then the joint events, and then the hot desks. And we'll be going through these services in a bit more detail, but just to give you an overview, the reports and guidelines, we have now over 80 published on our website, and these are all freely accessible for EU SMEs to download once they have registered on the website. So that was just a very quick overview of the centre and its services. I'm now going to pass on to Anne-Laure, who is our communications manager, and she'll be telling you about the key ways that you can work together with the EU SME Centre. Okay, Anne-Laure.
Okay, thank you, Chris, and good morning to everybody listening. So as Chris mentioned, I am the communications manager here at the EU SME Centre in Beijing, and I've been working in China now for over 8 years. Previously in project management and communications for event consultancies, and I've had some experience working both in Beijing and Shanghai. My background is more on Chinese studies, and then I did a master's degree in interpreting and translating at the University of Bath in the UK. But currently my position is as communications manager at the EU SME Centre, and that means that my role is essentially marketing the services of the centre, raising visibility across China, but also predominantly across the EU. As Chris mentioned, we are very much set up to support early stage market access for SMEs and partnering organisations assisting SMEs based in the EU 28 member states. So that's just a brief little introduction about me. And I'd like to start the second part of today's webinar, focusing very much on the ways in which we work together with intermediary organisations and, in this instance, EEN partners across the EU. So I will be looking at 4 different elements. So firstly, what benefits are there for your members, for your SME members, relating to doing business in China? So what benefits can they get from the EU SME Centre services? Secondly, how we, the EU SME Centre, can support you, your EEN association and organisation, in the activities that you are doing relating to China. So how can we support your events in the EU, but also here in China? Thirdly, providing you content. So how can you benefit from the information that we have available, and what other content can we provide you to support your programs across the EU? And then finally, I will go through with how you can become a partner of the network, how you can engage more regularly with us in order to support your SMEs more in engaging in business in China. So first and foremost, I think this very much supports the areas that you are most interested in, and that is providing information and expert advice. At the Centre, through our 4 areas of expertise, we are producing a lot of information on opportunities for European SMEs in different sectors in the market in China, as well as providing information and advice on market entry and market access. We have an Ask the Expert channel, which is available from the homepage of our website. So your organizations, but also your SMEs individually, can post any inquiry, any question that they have about doing business in China through the website, and that will go directly to our experts, and they will provide an answer within 7 working days. There is, however, a wealth of information available to you for free from our website. So we have over 80 publications online today, mainly in 3 types of publications. Firstly, sector reports, so reports highlighting opportunities in different industries in China for SMEs. Secondly, guidelines. These are very practical, step-by-step publications on how to do business in China from a legal perspective or a market access perspective. And then thirdly, we have a whole bank of real case studies, so European SMEs that are already in the market and that are sharing their best practices and how they overcame certain challenges when they accessed the market. Now, as Chris mentioned, we do also have our trainings, and our webinars, such as this one today, are also broadcast and recorded live. So the recordings can also be viewed from our website and also on our YouTube channel. So there is a lot of information to hand that you can use already from today. Now, the centre itself is a service provider. You saw the, I'll show you a little bit later on the hot desking area. And maybe something to note from the outset, we are of course a project that is fully funded by the European Commission, so our services to SMEs are free of charge. One of the exciting new tools that we launched earlier this year was a Diagnostic Tool Kit. This is a kit, if you will, for SMEs to help them get ready and be more prepared to enter the Chinese market. So through a series of 4 reports and also an online quiz, SMEs can get the fundamentals of doing business in China. So from sector opportunities through to how to enter the Chinese market through different modes of entry, how to set up companies here, and then also a step-by-step guide on how to export your goods and your technology into the Chinese market. Then finally, with a report and a guide on how to conduct preliminary due diligence. And preliminary due diligence is actually a very important big issue for SMEs engaging with business partners here. And so we do provide a lot of training content on this particular subject. So these reports are again available to download from the website, and you can also contact me. I will give you my contact details later in order to receive some hard copies if you would like to disseminate them through your member network. This is all coupled with an online quiz which your SMEs can take, and they can gauge how ready they are to do business in China. They get given a score at the end and also signposted to further information to help support their market access. On this slide you can see the hot desking service and the facilities available here at the EU SME Centre in Beijing. So on the left and right photos you can see our open plan hot desk area. These are temporary office space, so desks for SME managers or also for you yourselves. If you are visiting China for a short stay and you would like to be close to our experts, be able to network with us, but also need office facilities, then you are free to use these and you can book them online. And this will also give you access to our training room and meeting room that we have here within the centre. And we can support you with some simple secretarial services such as setting up appointments, finding addresses in Chinese and helping to translate. So to my second point on how we support events. Now I know that that you are all engaging in China in some way, maybe supporting your SMEs that are still based in Europe. So sometimes you may be organizing trainings or you may be thinking of organizing some seminars or workshops on preparing your SMEs to enter the market. And this is very much what the EU SME Centre does with partners across the EU. We have a lot of knowledge and we can provide you content in the form of training materials, in the form of an expert speaker. So one of our experts, we can send them at our cost to your member state and help to provide some training there. We also receive delegations to China, so if you're planning any trade missions and you would like to receive some support on site, then we can also help you in this regard.
Perhaps, Daniel, you can say a bit about working with the EN in this respect as well, because I think we've worked with many EN partners in this respect.
Yes, we have. I mean, across the EU, we have worked with several EN members in Poland, Hungary, in Scandinavia and the like. And there we very much provide a half a day training content, and our expert is also available to provide one-to-one consultations, so individual consultations to the companies after the event. We also work very closely with the EEN points here in China, of which there are 5 official EEN points. So there's an EEN point in the north of China, which is governed by Tianjin, in the south of Fujian, in the east Shanghai, in the west of China, that's based in Chengdu, and then there's the EEN Central China, which is based in Changsha. And through our EEN partners here in China, then we are able to set up meetings and matchmaking opportunities for trade delegations coming into China. One of our great success stories was earlier this year in July when we supported the European Commission Mission for Green Growth to China, which was led by Mr. Antonio Tajani, the Vice President of the Commission, and supported by the Environment Commissioner. Here, together with the EN partners in China, we arranged a day's matchmaking session for 50 European SMEs and 80 Chinese companies, and they met and carried out over 300 meetings during the day, which many of which led to very fruitful business follow-up negotiations and transactions.
And I think the great thing about this event as well was that we worked very closely with the Enterprise Europe Network, particularly both in Europe and in China. As you know, there are 5 EN points in China as well, and they really helped us to get those 80 Chinese companies to come to this event and make it as successful as it was.
Webinars are a very good tool for us to reach out to SMEs and intermediary organizations, to all our EM partners across the 28 member states. Of course, many SMEs do not necessarily have the funds or the time to travel to their capital cities where most of the China-related events will be held. So we do have our webinar series is very popular, and typically we have a webinar on Tuesday afternoons at the same time, so from 10 to 11 Central European time. And these cover many different aspects of doing business in China, from how to get your food and beverage goods through Chinese customs, to working with Chinese partners, to due diligence, opportunities in the construction sector in China, etc., etc. And as I mentioned before, these are recorded live and available for you to listen to whenever you want, either from our website or on our YouTube channel.
I think the other thing to note about this is that we're looking to do this very much on a joint basis as well. And so if any Enterprise Europe Network partners want to do a webinar together, they have expertise in a certain area, or they know an expert in a certain area, then we can do a webinar for a certain issue or a certain sector issue as well.
And of course, these webinars can be co-branded with the EN partner in question.
That's right, yeah. And they can be tailored to the membership of a particular EN partner as well.
Yes. So thirdly, in terms of providing content, we're very busy at the centre, and we're producing a lot of content that's freely available from the website, of course. But we also work every month to produce articles, very practical articles for media. And these are typically covering issues on doing business in China and opportunities in particular for SMEs in different sectors. So if you are interested in receiving more content, you maybe have newsletters or blogs online, maybe magazines that are sent through your trade contacts, then you can let me know. You can send me an email. My email will be provided at the end of this presentation, and we can add you to our media mailing list. So we have a lot of content available, and we try to push that out as much as possible. We have a very strong outreach through media across the EU, and we have had entries in, for instance, the China Daily, in E15, Euronews, Magyar Nemzet, Europolitics and the like. And we do this together with our partner network, of which we have over 200 to date. So becoming part of the network, the EU SME Centre has a very strong network of intermediary organisations. Typically these organisations are EEN points. They are chambers of commerce, or they are other sister EU projects, industry associations or business clusters that have within their networks SMEs that are engaging or wanting to engage in doing business in China. So how can you become part of this network? Well, it's very simple. As a first step, I recommend you to register on the EU SME Centre website if you've not already done so. From the home page, it's very simple. At the top, you apply for a free membership. It's a quick online form, 30 seconds, 1 minute, and then you will have full access to our services online. Becoming a partner means that we will exchange web links, and your logo and organization name and hyperlink will be visible from our website. We also recommend that you register and you engage in our social media community. We are present on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. And on LinkedIn, furthermore, we have a members group of over 550 members that are discussing different aspects of doing business in China. You can also use us as a platform. Being part of the network is not just accessing our information, it's also using us, the centre, as a platform to promote your China-related events. If you have upcoming events that you would like to promote, you can do so in our LinkedIn groups on social media. We also have an online calendar, events calendar, that we can put there. So as part of our being a partner with us, we would also engage in joint events across in your member state, and also supporting you when you come to China. And we can also feature you in our monthly newsletter. So every person that registers on the website has the option to receive a newsletter, which is sent out monthly. And this is a way in which to stay connected with the EU SME Centre. Every month we deal with an issue or a sector doing business in China, providing very up-to-date information and statistics, as well as very practical tips and highlighting recent reports that have been updated or newly published. So definitely a way to stay in contact. If you would like to be added to any of our mailing lists, please do send me an email. I will give you my email at the end of this presentation. And staying in contact on social media means that you will be the first to know on the events that we are planning. In terms of events as well, we are typically engaging in 4 or 5 roadshows to the EU each year. And this means that our experts are traveling to different member states and providing a series of trainings, not necessarily in your capital city, but as a series of events, 2 or 3 stops. So if you are interested in delivering a series of trainings and turning that into a roadshow with us, then please also let us know. Where can you get all this information, where to start? As I mentioned before, the centre website, www.eusmecentre.org.cn. Here, once you register, you have full access to the site, and all our services are available there. We talked about the Knowledge Centre before. The Knowledge Centre houses all our publications, it houses our past webinar recordings, but it houses much more. It also has online databases. So there you can search for upcoming trade shows, exhibitions in China. There is also a database of service providers. So the EU SME Centre provides first-line information and advice. If you are looking for more tailored services in China, or your SMEs are looking for more tailored services, they can search our online directory, which has been categorized so that they can find the most suitable organization for them. So this database typically houses lawyers, accountants, consultants, and the like.
Thank you very much, Anna, for that. And I think that's a very good roundup of the ways that we can work together. And if I can just go through the checklist of some of the key areas that you talked about just now. If you look on the left, some of the ways that we could work together include, for example, the benefits that we can offer to your members in terms of the information and the expert advice that we can provide them, and also in terms of the support services that we can offer in terms of hot desks and in also in receiving delegations. So if you have any delegations that are coming over from the EU to China in many of the sectors or in the sectors that you're interested in, then we could help provide a briefing presentation to those delegations as well. Andrew also mentioned the supporting of training events from your organizations, and this includes trade missions in Europe and in China. And so we're very welcoming to doing joint events both in Europe and in China. We also can provide a lot of content from our experts and through our network of experts, and so this content can feed into your articles, your newsletters, your magazines, and your media publications as well. And as Anwar said, we have a wide outreach at the moment. Our articles have been very popular, 4.5 million readership, and many different national organizations publishing our articles as well. And then finally, and most importantly, I think, is to stay in contact and to be part of the EU SME Centre network. We have over 200 partners now based in the EU and in China, and you can stay in contact by exchanging links and by registering on our social media platforms, which are very strong at the moment, and then just by keeping in contact with our staff. And as Anwar said, her details will be at the end of this presentation, and you can contact her directly as well. The other thing I'd like to mention, though, is that we're always looking to improve our services and tailor them to the needs of your members, and so we would greatly welcome your feedback, particularly in terms of what focus areas, sectors, and knowledge areas the centre should be looking at. You also may also have some expertise in a particular area or a particular area that we haven't looked at yet, and we can make an event or webinar tailored to your needs as well. Or if you have an expert that you know that could provide the content, then we can add them to our network of experts as well. Finally, the EU has 22 official languages, I think, and so right now the guidelines and reports are provided in English, and so if there is a need for translation into another language, then please tell us about that as well. Okay? So that was just a roundup of the background of the centre, its services, and some of the ways that we can work together. And during the webinar, we've had a few questions that have come in. So we'll move on to the Q&A session, and the first one is for Anna, actually, and it's about working with the EM partners in particular. Can you give a few examples of how that mechanism works between the EU SME Centre in terms of the services we provide, the events, I suppose, in particular, and working with the EM partners?
Right, it's a good question, yes. EM partners, we work, as I mentioned, with EM partners both in the EU and China. The EM partners in China, how do we work with them? How do we interrelate with them? As I mentioned before, we're in close contact with the 5 EN points across China, and we're regularly supporting their EU-level events, and they also support ours here in China, specifically in bringing together European SMEs and Chinese companies in order to better develop opportunities for these European companies in certain sectors. I mean, the missions for green growth earlier this year was an example of this collaboration, which focused very much on the green technology sector, which is very promising for European SMEs in China, and one of our focus sectors. And there we worked with our EN partners in China to match the Chinese companies and European delegates during a matchmaking session.
I think one of the key ways that we work together with the EN partners as well is through just exchanging information. So obviously the EN partners have many China-related events, and we will notify each other of the events that we're doing. Some of them we'll do on a joint basis, some of them we will just publicize on our website. So a lot of it is just about sharing information and knowledge throughout the network.
I have another question here as well. Does the centre have any regular contacts with bilateral chambers of commerce or any other trade promotion agencies provided by member states here in China? I think it's important to note that the EU SME Centre is backed by a consortium of chambers of commerce in China. We have 8 consortium partners from the CBBC, the French, German, Italian, Spanish, Benelux Chambers of Commerce, and the European Chamber of Commerce, all here in China, and also Eurochamber, based in Brussels. That said, we work very closely with all member state chambers of commerce here in China, as well as the embassies and specifically the commercial sections of the embassies or the trade support arms of the member states. So we do have regular contact with all those bilateral chambers. If you're looking for any contacts in particular there, then we can help you in that regard.
Another question that's come in is about the beginning of the presentation, or the webinar actually, and it says, in my opinion, the most difficult part of entering the Chinese market is finding reliable partners. And the question is asking, do you have any suggestions on how to deal with this problem? And to our experience as well, this is actually absolutely the key problem in entering the Chinese market, finding partners that you can work with and that you can trust. In many respects, though, the channels are actually available to find the partners, and we would always recommend European SMEs to attend the relevant exhibitions in their industry area. And that is exactly why the Centre has an exhibitions database, which is freely available on our website, and which is a pretty comprehensive list which can be searched by industry and by region of the different exhibitions which are available in China. There's also a range of industry associations that the SME Centre works with as well, and we can point European SMEs in the right direction in those terms as well. And then another good source of reliable partners is the membership of the Chambers of Commerce. And as Anil just mentioned, we work very closely with these partners as well. The deeper problem, though, I think, in this area is the actual, once you've found a partner, how do you check their background and find out they're a reliable partner with which you can do business? And that's exactly why we've published the Diagnostic Kit. One of the parts is about knowing your partner in China, and it takes you through the fundamental steps of carrying out due diligence in China in terms of the background financial check, the background legal check, and doing the operational checks as well of the different people that you're working with. So I would very much recommend that you point your members in the direction of those publications, and which I think will help them in sourcing a reliable partner in China.
There's another question here asking about hot desks and what exactly is a hot desk. And just to go back on that, a hot desk is basically a desk space here at the centre that allows SMEs to use them free of charge office space for a temporary basis. So typically you have export managers or intermediaries coming over to China to explore business opportunities in the local market. Maybe coming through Beijing to attend a trade show, and the SME in question is looking for an office space to do some work for a few hours or a couple of weeks, and this is what we provide here through our hot desks. So it's very much a desk that has internet access, that has a phone, access to printer and fax, and we provide some simple secretarial support. We find that the users of our hot desks have benefited a lot from being side by side to our in-house experts, so they can ask any questions that arise as they are conducting their business meetings here. It also gives them an opportunity, especially if they've not established any legal presence or any company in China, then it still allows them to conduct business meetings with potential Chinese partners because they can use the meeting room facilities here at the centre free of charge. So rather than trying to conduct a business meeting in the hotel lobby, then it provides an office environment for that European SME on a temporary basis.
Great. There's also a question about our networks in China. We mentioned the word networks a lot in terms of partnership networks. And actually, we have a few different types of network within the EU SME Centre. One of them is a network of experts. So the training presentations and the reports that we write, that we do a great deal of them, they're not all done by the in-house experts at the centre. There's 5 in-house experts at the centre at the moment. We have a larger database of experts in the different expert areas, which allows us the flexibility to go into different niche areas in order to produce our work. So that's one of the key networks that we have. The other one is in terms of the Chambers of Commerce and the network partners, the consortium partners, both in China and in Europe. And so we have a network in China, and the China one also includes connections with industry associations, like-minded Chinese associations, like the Chinese Association for Small to Medium-Sized Enterprises, which we're very well connected with as well. And then obviously we have the different chambers of commerce within the EU member states. So we have a variety of networks that we leverage in that respect as well.
Okay, so we've had quite a few questions coming through. Let's see, the next one on the list. So we have a question here about matchmaking. Could you be more specific about matchmaking opportunities with Chinese partners? What does it look like? Well, typically, when you have a trade mission coming to China, this works. We find from experience this works very well if it's sector focused. So as I mentioned previously, the green technology matchmaking that we did. Once it's sector focused, then we work together with one of our local partners, Chinese partners, to provide counterparts, so Chinese companies that can match, that can hold meetings, individual meetings with the delegates from Europe, so with the SMEs from Europe. We can do matchmakings at different in different ways. We did one earlier this year at the Clean Energy Expo in China, so it can be as part of a visit to an exhibition. We did one together through the Missions for Green Growth, so supporting the European Commission and their initiative, and that was more a pan-EU level, so a mix of member states taking part, but we can also do this to support member states. So if you have a trade mission coming over to China and you want those companies to meet with potential business partners in China, then we can help to facilitate this through matchmaking, through ourselves at the centre, but also our network partners.
Yeah.
So typically in matchmaking will be one-to-one meetings, usually of a sector focus.
Okay. I think there's some other questions coming in right now.
I think we have time for one more question.
So organising a training session with a representative from the SME Centre, how does the organisation of a training work in terms of providing expertise from the centre?
Okay, so I assume this means a training session in Europe, so in the member states in Europe. So typically we will send across one of our experts. As I say, typically, though this is a flexible structure, typically it's a half-a-day seminar situation set up with opening remarks by the local organizer, so you, the endpoint, or any Chamber of Commerce or Trade Promotion Agency, and we would provide a speaker to provide the trainings on various aspects of doing business in China, so typically anything from 1 hour to 2 or 3 hours presentation maximum. Yeah. And what we find from experience that works very well is to couple this with some real case studies. So typically our event partners in Europe will provide 1 or 2 of their members that is already engaging in business in China to also say a few words on how they have conducted their business to support the training session. We provide all the materials in advance, and essentially the partners help us to find the venue and to communicate the event through their SME networks.
Yes. So from our side, we can very much tailor the content to the needs of your members. If, as I said before, there's a wide range of different levels of experience from European SMEs, some that don't really know much about the Chinese market to those that are very, very experienced, and we can find the right expert to deliver at the right level of information that is required by your members.
If you would like to know what events we have upcoming, one way is to look at the events calendar on our website. But probably an even better way is if you send me an email. Again, we're coming to that slide with my email address on it. Sure. So you can send me an email and I will add you to our Snap Update mailing list that goes out bi-monthly, so twice a month. It gives an update of the events and the activities that are upcoming, both in Europe but also here in China. It also highlights some of the most recent published business tools that we have and any news from our key partners. So it's a good way also of keeping in touch, but knowing what's coming up in the coming weeks and months.
Yes. And if we now move on to the email, which I think you'll be getting quite a few in a few moments. We'll also be at the EN conference in Vilnius later this month, or next week, both Anne-Laure and I. And so if you have the time and if you're there, we'd be very welcome to meeting you at the conference. Anne-Laure's contact details are below, so if you'd like to take note of that. And she's really the key contact point in terms of joining our partnership network and accessing many of the benefits that we've mentioned today during this webinar. With that, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us today in today's webinar. If you have any further questions, please feel free to forward them to us. And don't forget, at the end of this webinar as well, there's a survey, so if you'd just like to give us a quick rating on what you thought of this webinar as well, that would be very helpful too. So please stay in contact, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.